guy walks into a bar. Or strictly speaking, it's a music venue, but it has a bar in it. It's not important. A guy walks into a bar and he walks up to me and he says, "Hey, Watson, I saw you posted that video. Congratulations, man." And I'm like, "Thanks. How are you doing?" And he goes, "Good. I'm going to go put my name in for the open mic." And he goes and does that. And then he comes back and says, "So how are you?" And I say, "I'm doing great. Did you watch the video?" Because I know it's a really good video and I like praise. But he says, "No, I watched like the first 30 seconds, but I could tell it wasn't for me, so I just clicked off." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, strictly speaking, it wasn't. It was explicitly addressed to my friend Cecilia, but you could have watched it." And he says, "Yeah, but like, I'm not an academic. You know, I that stuff goes over my head. I'm sure it was great for the people who can understand it." And I'm trying to decide what to do with this information because that video was written with like the express purpose of being legible to non-academics. And here, a friend of mine who I absolutely know is smart enough to follow what was going on just told me that he didn't even watch it because he assumed he wouldn't understand as soon as he found out it had anything to do with grad school. So I tell him, "All right, well, I'm making the next one for you specifically. It's about academic rigor." If we're going to talk about academic rigor, we should start with a rigorous definition of the term rigor. So, here's a 2019 white paper on the definition of the term rigor. You can go read all 22 pages if you want. I've read some of them. The main takeaways I've got are A, academic rigor is very important. B, there is absolutely no consensus on what the fuck that term means. And C, therefore, we need to come up with a definition of academic rigor so that we have something to hold people to because it's very important that the academy be rigorous. So a thing that happens a lot in the academy is that a word will kind of peel off from its natural language meaning, and if you want to understand what that word is doing in the academy, you have to know the difference between its academic meaning and its natural language connotation. The classic example is theory. In colloquial English, the word theory means something you're not that sure about, and in academic English, the word theory means something you're very, very sure about. That's not what's happening with the term rigor. What's going on with the term rigor is that the academy's got this natural language word we've been using for over 100 years, more or less on the strength of vibes, and nobody who's tried to come up with a technical definition has been able to get it to stick. Rigor is not a technical term. Rigor is a regular-ass English word. And having caught it here with its pants down, we can thus examine it in terms of its regular-ass English meaning. It means stiff. Inflexible, rigid, especially with regard to personality. A rigorous person is inflexible with regard to beliefs, morality, opinions. So like a journal that's rigorous with respect to the quality of the work they publish isn't going to let a bad article through just because the author's famous or is friends with the editor or because they've got a deadline to meet. And that's obviously good. We want that. And a university that's rigorous with respect to diplomas might not give someone a PhD just because their dissertation is good if it doesn't cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and fit neatly into the prescribed format of what a dissertation is supposed to look like. And that's obviously bad, right? I think I have to say that that's bad. If that's not bad, I'm fucked. And so is everybody else who wants to study the problems with academic formalism. And a paper that's rigorous is fuck. What does it mean for a paper to be rigorous? Like, if the things in it are true, relevant, and appropriately contextualized, that means the author was rigorous when she was assembling the paper. But I'm pretty sure, strictly speaking, every paper is exactly as rigorous as every other in that all of the words in them strictly say the things they say. I'm being facetious, though. I've been getting taught what rigorous academic writing is for 2 years now. Rigorous academic writing cites everything you can imagine someone expecting you to cite, and so proves that you have exhaustively surveyed the possible fields of literature relevant to your topic. It means that you answer all of the questions implied by anything you bring up, or failing that, bring those things up more carefully so that they imply fewer questions. It means you anticipate all of the ideas that a potential peer reviewer might bring to the article so that you can address them in advance. Rigorous academic writing is strictly, rigidly, inflexibly bloated, equivocating, defensive, and vague. Arguably, this goes more for the humanities than the sciences, although everything I've ever heard about methods sections in chemistry papers suggests that the chemists writing them are leveraging shitty communication as a form of job security. Every time my roommate and I talk about this, she brings up the strict formalism of paleontology papers, how the plug-and-play sets of taxonomical relationships make it really easy to put all of the information you need in really easily findable spots for other paleontologists. And I don't dispute that that's a really appropriate use case for strict, rigorous formalism. It's not that it's bad to be strict about some things. It's that it is bad to be strict about some things. The thing that drives me up a wall about this conversation is the people who say that we need to be rigorous in the same breath that they talk about the necessity of experimentation, flexibility, and innovation. Like, my work isn't rigorous. It's never going to be rigorous. It can't be, because even if I check every box that a more rigorous form would have asked of me, the fact that I am working outside of the standard forms means there is no structure for me to rigorously adhere to. A few months ago, a friend of mine was helping me move, and I was trying to explain to her this crisis I've been having my whole time in grad school, where I feel like I swing back and forth between thinking I'm exceptional at all of this shit and that I am completely incapable of it, and I never just land in the middle at competent. And I tried to draw it on paper, and I realized what was wrong with the way that I was thinking about it. It's not that I have a personality disorder, it's that I had a conceptualization error. The oscillation wasn't swinging back and forth between two extremes. It was the fact that I had clocked in the course of a year and a half of grad school that an industry standard approach to scholarship was never going to be viable for me, both because a research interest in the problems with academic formalism is incompatible with the approach of academic formalism, and because the particular cocktail of brain shit I have going on, the neurodivergence, habits, talents, and traumas, just don't have any purchase there. I just realized I completely forgot to explain this chart in the script. It's two axes. The horizontal one is quality, where the far left is low quality work and the far right is high quality work that is valued by the people you're doing the work for. And then the vertical axis is rigidity, like how well you can do that work within the confines of the standard expected structure. So the bottom is very loose conformity or no conformity at all, and the top is very strict conformity. And we've got like 4 sections here. Somebody who does low quality work and can't do it rigidly is completely incapable. They just can't do the thing. Somebody who does low quality work but like strictly within the form is incompetent. You've had these coworkers, you've had people who are able to do the job in the right way, so nobody really holds them accountable for the fact that the way they do it is bad. In the upper right, we have strict conformity and high quality, which is where we get competent. These are people who are just good at their jobs. And in the lower right, we have low rigidity, high quality, which is where we get exceptional, which doesn't mean better than competent. It means needs exceptions to do good work. Like, I'm here because I'm very good at a particular kind of work. And the thing that work produces is enough like what grad school is for that it got me in. But under the hood, it's a very different machine. And I am simply and straightforwardly not good enough at industry standard scholarship to be able to get through grad school by doing it. So the conflict is, I need exceptions, kind of unequivocally. And I've been getting real mixed messages on whether this institution values the stuff that I can do enough to make the accommodations for me. If this is a strictly rigorous program, the answer has to be no. Absolute rigor demands that there can be no work product so valuable that it permits any deviation from the forms. And there are reasons to take that kind of stance. Like, do you want con men? Because this is how you get con men. But a guy walks into a bar and he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, I watched the first 30 seconds of your video, and once I found out it had something to do with grad school, I shut it off because I assumed I wasn't smart enough to watch it." The rigid and inflexible forms of scholarly writing demand that a casual reader struggle. This default is so ingrained that legibility to outsiders is treated as a separate discipline, public scholarship, which is not scholarship done in public. It's the reformulation of real scholarship out of its proper form and into something intelligible to the uninitiated. It's condescension in the historical sense, descending from the elevated status of your class to indulge your inferiors by offering them special permission to participate. And people get the message. They know they're not really welcome. So, scholars, I do not give a fuck whether you feel obligated to make your prose accessible or entitled not to. I am not asking about whether your work in particular should or shouldn't be readable by non-experts. The current state of affairs is not merely that non-expert audiences accept the possibility that they might not understand an academic work. The current state of affairs is that non-expert audiences assume that if a work is identified with the Academy, it's not for them. Are you okay with that being what the deal is? Because that's the deal that inflexibility buys us. That's the deal that rigor buys us. And that's a deal in which public support for a dwindling academy only ever continues to fall. You're about to see my Patreon supporters start scrolling by here, and if you're not an academic and you've stuck with me this far, thank you for sticking around. I know this is kind of inside baseball, but my whole deal here is that the stark divide between the academic and non-academic worlds is bad for the academy. And if you're not an academic and are never going to be involved with the academy, then your support is essential for its survival. I would like to convince you that it's worth saving. And 2 years into a PhD program, the step I'm on right now is trying to figure out whether I can prove that it's worth saving to myself. Like I said, I've been getting mixed messages, but the thing about mixed messages in an institution that's made of people is what that actually means is there are people who are more aligned with my goals and people who are less aligned with my goals. If you like what I'm doing, go follow the Patreon. Following's free, and it's the best place to stay in the loop about the stuff that I'm doing. If you'd like to help support me and you've got $5 or $10 a month you can spare, there's some extra stuff on there for backers too. My university has asked me not to name them in public, which is all well and good because the next thing I'm going to tell you is they don't pay me very much, which is embarrassing for them. I scrape by, but the world is getting more expensive, and if I'm really going to do this, then I need to be doing more than surviving. It's hard to focus on scripts when part of your brain is worrying about where food money's coming from next week. But more than that, I'm not staying in the academy after I graduate. This Patreon is going to be my salary, my research budget, and the salaries of the people who work with me, who I would love to be paying. So go follow patreon.com/txwatson if you want to see where I'm going with all this. I'm excited to find out too.